Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Stallions Run. As always, I'm your host, Buck, with Scout. Scout, looks like we have quite a bit to talk about. Training camp has started, a potential new logo, and also potential new uniforms. Quite a bit to talk about as we enter into the first full week of Stallions training camp. So let's start off. One, we know when saying training camp started is basically players arrived on the 23rd to Arlington. I guess we'll start off with your thoughts on kind of how things have been going so far in training camp.
Yeah, I think it's a little mix of both. We saw the XFL training camp, we saw the USFL training camp. It's not as deep as the XFL training camp went last year. Like we even had like some like already recorded stuff by this time, but also it's more deep than like the USFL one. But the type of content is very similar to the USFL. We're seeing players stretching like on the story post. We're seeing different receiver drills, and we're seeing a bunch of other things. With the Stallions, with Stallions especially, we're seeing a bunch of receiver content. And I think that's because I know both Dan and on the actual official Stallions account, he had mentioned that like, hey, the receiver group was the most loud about, hey, we want to get our picture out first, we want to do this. So it's probably very hard to dodge, especially with a very talented group. You of course got like Marlon Williams, Slade Bolden, got plenty of talent out there. So yeah, but I love the content currently. I know we'll talk about some of the more specifics in the show, but I really like where everything's heading, and it should be great.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of pleasantly surprised. I know, again, we were both covering the Stallions last season. The USFL, for all the good it had, a giant fall was their kind of social media game. And now being able to kind of see more of the process happen without, I was lucky enough to be able to go in person to a Stallions practice. They invited some journalists out for 20 minutes to come see what was going on. We got to ask some questions. A lot of fun. But that was all I got to really see of a practice or a training camp during the USFL season. So now having that, I guess, opportunity now to kind of see more with social media, something I'm going to be taking, advantage of as we're going to try to see what's going on in real time. So I guess you mentioned the receiver stuff. We did get that. That was Monday, which was yesterday as we're recording.
Yeah.
But today on Tuesday, the night we're recording, we started getting more quarterback content, which I've been very pleasantly surprised about. I thought they would kind of hold that off a little bit, especially because again, Matt Corral, probably the biggest signing that is a newcomer to spring football for Birmingham, especially. That and Adrian Martinez, we got to look at them today. Both, in fact, if you check out Stallions UFM on Twitter, you can actually see where I talked about those videos on the social media account. Scout, I guess your thoughts. I know we talked about this a little bit before the show. I'll kind of let you talk about that, but I guess your thoughts. We now have our first look of Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez in Stallions uniforms and kind of doing some at least some football practice.
Yeah, so I liked it. I liked the fact that we got to see a slow-mo version of Matt Corral. That was the latest clip. Um, it's definitely something to look at. It's just one rep for both of them, I believe. And
Yep.
but it was like I know from Matt Corral, you saw that he has a little I don't want to say Tim Tebow like, but it's definitely a more eclectic throwing motion. It's not a normal throwing motion, but it's a really quick release. Like it takes a while, like not a while, but it takes a decent amount of time to get there. But once it gets like right to the release point, he's throwing it away. It's not like it's a slower release or something. And it looked like it had a lot of velocity coming off. Like it was just like
Oh,
boom.
oh yeah.
Um, and then with Adrian Martinez, it was very similar. It was closer to I guess like a like J Marsh throwing style, so like a more traditional throwing style.
Mhm.
But I like both clips. I think we'll probably see more. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a few more like rollout type clips or something like that, like just like showing the skill set, because I think it's a quarterback heavy league, in the sense that, hey, we only have 8 opportunities now for these quarterbacks to shine. So it will try to be like, I know it's not a true developmental league, quote unquote. There's still a league. You're still trying to win a championship. You're still trying to put together a championship roster. But at the end of the day, the goal for a good chunk of these players is to make it back to the NFL or make it to the NFL. So yeah. But I think Matt Corral definitely showed out today. Adrian Martinez showed out pretty well today as well. We did not see either Jalen Morton or Jamar Smith. I don't think that's a deterrent to them. I think that's just we have two shiny new toys and we want to show you them versus obviously we saw Jalen Morton several times last year and we saw Jamar Smith like the entirety of 2022 and in the first game last year until he sadly got hurt. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I do want to say this. I kind of wish they had all four quarterbacks posted today and not just Matt Corral and Adrian. It's kind of like one of those things where I'm like you could have, just like maybe like, well, to be fair, we don't know how exactly they're running the drill, but maybe like have two like Matt and Jamar and then Jalen and Adrian. I'm just making a hypothetical here, but just show them like kind of everyone doing the reps at the same time because that's what happens in practice before kickoff. There, every quarterback's doing their reps at the same time, so it's like that's something I kind of wish they did. I want to see Jamar. I want to see him in action right now. I mean, we haven't gotten to see him in action for a year, so that's just my only real complaint right now. Which, again, take that for what it's worth. But something at least I'm glad we're at least seeing the quarterbacks and how things are happening right now with training camp. Just some other kind of quick notes. We have gone a video kind of like what the meetings look like. There was a quick locker room meeting with Skip Holtz talking. We've seen kind of the practices break up. Kind of everyone shuts down for the day. We kind of saw that little huddle. But yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff. Let's talk about uniforms because that right now is kind of a question for the USFL teams and also the Roughnecks a little bit because they're wearing all white helmets for Houston. So people are wondering if that I'm going to say an awful tricolor helmet's gone, which I would be thankful for because but for the Stallions, it looks like brand new uniforms are coming. Just the way I'm looking at things and how things are being positioned. Again, the XFL, they use Under Armour. That seemingly is coming back for the UFL. Scout, we've kind of had this conversation a little bit. What's your thoughts on potentially new uniforms? And my guess is the way the red looks, I think a new shade of red is coming off.
So the shade of red, I did a deep dive on this because I'm the resident, random ball knower. But if you look in like the old, like the 80s USFL, it is a more bright red. Like it's a brighter color of red. And if you look at the I even looked at the UFL kickoff thing. Bo almost looks like he's like it's still a brighter red. Like I don't think that it's gonna look like the same uniform. But it's definitely a little brighter than beforehand. And the reason I say that is because in the 80s, I don't know if it's just the way pictures look, I don't know if it's just the way, but it looks like a brighter red, or at least a more saturated red. And I think that's kind of what they're aiming for here. I think the face mask will still be a more scarlet or a more cardinal color, but I think there will be like a bright red for the Stallions. Now the thing with the gold, and for those of you unaware, one of the sides of the team is wearing gold for the practices, and I'm to the point, like skepticism, that we may see gold home uniforms or like gold primary uniforms for the Stallions. I know a lot of people are against that. They're like, hey, it might be an alternate, but I think it would just like it wouldn't necessarily make the most sense in like a normalcy sense. But when you think of the whole like there's a path for almost every team to have a different color than the other, and I think that, or at least a different look than the other, and I think that going away from red would make them a lot more different than DC. So if like they happen to play DC, like whether it's in the regular season or whether it's in the playoffs, that they would like the Reds would differentiate. But I think like from what I've seen, I think it'll still be a very similar 49ers kind of color scheme still. Gold, red. If you Yeah, gold, red, white. If you look at the Niners uniforms from back then, it's almost like the exact same thing, except the Stallions used a red face mask, whereas the Niners have always used a gray face mask. Um, but yeah, but I think it'll still probably be around the same of what we're used to. But but yeah, it's just I'm still skeptical of like what we're actually using, and it's a bit like the biggest part for me is what we're about to go into after this, which is talking about the use of the secondary logo,
Yeah.
which then would lead into more of like the XFL room of thought whenever it comes to these things, which then after that, I can talk about more of like specific things of like my like wish list for this uniform. Obviously, it's already been made. Like I'm not like this. Whatever we say will not affect anything. We just don't know what it looks like yet. But yeah, but it should. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah. I mean, look, personally, I prefer the more red base for the Stallions. Now, let
Yeah,
me also be honest. Red's my favorite color. So I'm someone who's like, yeah, red, yeah.
yeah.
Um, but then gold, it would be more unique looking.
Yeah.
I can't think of any teams that like wear like gold as like the base, at least for football. Trying to think, is there even a college team that does it? I can't think
Georgia Tech
of any.
at
Well, I
times
mean, but
has.
yeah, at times but that seems becoming rare and rare now these days. They seem to be
Yeah,
switching over to the black uniforms
I think
more often.
probably also another one is Idaho. They're probably
Well,
one of the only ones that does it every time that they go out.
yeah, yeah. But still, it's like it would be a unique look.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, you know, it's just like here's the thing though. Do you really want to make Stallions fans mad? Because there's probably some who want like a repeat of the old uniforms because that's what they have in their closet.
Uh,
It's kind of like oh, go ahead.
I think one of the things is like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. And you and I both know though. I know like the Royal Retros uniforms. The number one that I saw around was the gold one of like the ones that he actually did. So it's probably one of those things where like yes you probably tick off some fans with that like going away from red, but then there's other fans who are probably like, oh, this is more unique. And another thing too, and I think the gold showed up more because of the red kind of ties into Alabama a lot, whereas
Mm,
like there's plenty of UAB diehard fans and Auburn fans. I say UAB diehard because there's a lot of plenty of Bama UAB connection. But but yeah, and they could want a change of pace. They could want, oh, I want gold as the primary, because gold, like the gold primary with like red trim, wouldn't look anything like Bama. Whereas the red number or like just like the red jersey, no matter how much gold you put as trim, people are still going to be like, oh, that's very reminiscent of Alabama. So yeah, but
I disagree. I disagree. But I'm not just like being like, oh,
the
I'm a Bama student and like a Bama fan. So like I'm going to disagree. But like, it just, I mean, look, comparing an Alabama uniform and a Birmingham uniform, they're very different.
yeah,
It's just the only similarity is there's red and white in it. Like that's it.
mhm,
All right. Well,
yeah,
still, let's talk about this new logo. We
mm,
first saw this logo pop up at the Daytona 500. Actually, we didn't mention it because a lot of us thought it's just a secondary logo. It's probably it's a unique looking jacket. But this logo appeared on the sleeve of the Rock's jacket, and it's very much different.
yeah,
Yes, I'm going to get it, Scout. Hold on, be patient. But we have seen it being, kind of show up through training camp. It's been on gear and stuff. So here it is on Skip Holtz. Hold on, there we go. We got to lean over to make wrong way. But there's what was originally a golden bee forever
oh,
for the secondary Stallions logo. It was like a regular color football. Excuse me, a golden color football with a golden bee. It's now red, and it's kind of like a
yeah,
golden red football. So at this point, with how prominent this logo is, I think there's a lot of questions of is this going to become the primary logo? Which, if it is, not a fan. I'm not a fan of this at all. I love my horse head. I think that's one of the best logos in sports. It's unique.
no,
It's it. Oh, shut up. Anyway, Uh, but it's like, I love the horse head. It's one of my favorite little things of the Stallions kind of gear. I think the B is a little, in my opinion, generic. It's like yeah, okay, so you're the Stallions. Where's the horse?
Hmm.
I mean, there's a reason the Stallions had a horse, lead the players out except for one game last season. I'm gonna put this
Yeah.
overlay away. So I guess thoughts on this potential new logo. If it's a new logo anyway, but
Yeah.
I guess the question is it going to be secondary or primary at this rate?
Okay, so I had to do like research on the XFL because all the secondary XFL uniforms are like a 1 by 1 square, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of them kind of have a different vibe, um, with like what they go like the like what they're aiming for, right? But I think what this is intending for is to have a logo that they can use with the word mark, and then they can have it to like just like put on the screen for like a score keep or something, right? Because not
But
all.
no, here's the problem. The Stallion head I worked out perfectly with the scorebook,
Yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
least with Fox and NBC. Maybe the ESPN scorebook it's going to look different.
Yeah. And but like I don't think it would I don't think it would necessarily like overtake it because like even the Renegades had the original XFL 2020 logo as their secondary, and we still saw the R, or like the Arlington R, as the primary, or like the most prominent logo. Um, but yeah, but I think it should be fine. Like I don't think it will be that big of a deal. And I was even thinking that we didn't see the secondary logos until right before the season, so like we could see like a totally, the brand of the Stallions is probably changing. Not that much, not that much. Still the same color wheel, still the same basic logos, but like they could be tweaking the brand a little bit, and this is our first taste, like because we don't know exactly, are they going to keep the stallion the same? Because if you look at the shorts that they're wearing, it's a stallion head that is only red, like only the outline is red.
See,
They
here's the
have like
here's the
little.
problem. But like again, in my opinion, the current Stein head is perfect. It's perfection.
Yeah.
It's like they took one of the aspects of the '80s logo, simplified it, but did it in a way that was tasteful and still
Hmm.
resembled the nostalgia for the original Stallions. If you're going
Yeah.
just the all red, no gold, and just the outline, I'm sorry, I don't like that. You got
Well,
to have that gold trim and the white.
yeah, I think like they'll still have a little bit of trim, but I'm wondering if they're trying to even make it more simple, because a lot of the like the logos are that simple. Like the Renegades logo is just one color. Now I think like they'll still have a little bit of trim, because if you compare it to like the Renegades secondary and the Renegades primary, our secondary, which I assume the B logo that we just talked about is the secondary. Um, it's like it's very minimalistic. So like every team has one minimalistic and then one where it's like, okay, this is our brand, like our known brand. But yeah, I think it's just a little different for me. But yeah, but I think also with the XFL, and this could just be me spitballing here, but if you looked at the 2020 logos to the 2023 logos, every brand changed. Now I know the Roughnecks had a change because of like something with the Texans had, that they couldn't
No,
do
it
the
was
whole
it
thing.
was it was it was with the Oilers.
Or yeah, like the Oilers they didn't want the whole oiled thing to be up there.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
which in my
But
opinion, I don't mean I'm biased as a Titans fan. I think the NFL is right on that one. So
I thought like could just be like me being, we're not Houston fans here. I thought the H looked better, and I think their secondary logo that they got out of that also looked way better than just
mm,
the oil rig. But the only one that really didn't change was the Guardians, but they moved out of a totally different market, and the Battlehawks barely
yeah,
changed too. But it was like basically everything else, either you moved a market or you changed. Even
hmm
DC's changed, which I thought was the only downgrade. I thought everything else got a little better. but especially since Arlington got to keep the Dallas Renegades logo, but the DC one where it was a shield and now it's just a D and a pentagon, which I get why it's a pentagon, but you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
But uh, but yeah, but I think, probably just like overthinking it here. We'll see plenty of stuff about the logo, about all that type of stuff as we go forward with this. Um, if you want, you can look at the XFL secondary logos last year. They're all kind of just like simplified versions of the main logo, and I think that's what they're going for here. We will see the Brahma Bull logo on all of them, on basically all the merchandise, so get used to that.
Not a fan.
And see, I'm an Under Armour guy. Like, obviously, not a lot of people know that. I don't have like a sponsorship or anything, but I've loved like all the Under Armour apparel. So like the Brahma Bull apparel, they use the same stuff that they make their Freedom line with, like the flag line with, and like those shirts fit me a lot better. So it's like I really like those shirts. And I don't know if the XFL does the Brahma Bull line or whatever. But if it's that same style of shirt, everyone should like it because I like it. But yeah, but it's nice, so I think we'll be fine.
All right. Well, there is one more thing before we wrap up the show. Coach Skip Holtz will be having the day after we're recording this. He will have a media availability. I will be attending that. It's gonna be like a virtual thing. I'm not going to be in Arlington for it. But we will be talking about that on the next show. So something to be keeping an eye out for. I'm sure there'll be pending questions. I'm going to be asking some that I have, and I'm excited to kind of talk about that. We get to hear Skip Holtz for the first time this season. Talk about the guys and what's going on, how he views things in training camp so far. So that will be all for this week's episode of Stallions Run. Scout, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Southern Charm SP on Twitter, Southern Charm Sports everywhere else. Well, just Instagram right now. We're working on other stuff. I post a variety of content. Obviously, as we get close to the UFL season, I'll be posting more content regarding the UFL and the UFM, which is what you're watching this on. But yeah, that's all for me.
All right, and you can find me on Twitter at StallionsUFM. As soon as the Stallions post something, I'm trying to get my opinion on it. What's going on with camp now, especially as we're starting to get a lot more clips from that. So stay tuned at StallionsUFM on Twitter so you can learn what's happening there. But until then, we'll see you guys next week again with that Skip Holtz media availability. We're going to talk about that and more. So we'll see you guys next.